In this video, I'll be showing you guys how to create an audio recorder application using Flutter. This application is going to work on mobile devices, web, and desktop, and we're going to be implementing the functionality of the user being able to click a button and then actually record their audio using the device's mic. And once they're done with their recording, they can stop the recording and then play the recording from their own device if they'd like. So to get started with building this application, we're going to require a couple of dependencies, namely four. The first is going to be the record package, which is going to allow us to implement the functionality of recording, and this package works on both mobile devices, so that's Android and iOS, as well as web and desktop applications such as Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So you can deploy your application to whatever platform that you'd like and implement recording capabilities. With this done, let's copy this actual dependency, come back to our pubspec.yaml file, and then here under the dependency section, I'm going to be pasting it in like so, and then we can move on to the next dependency, which is just audio. We're going to be using the just audio package to implement a very basic mechanism for playing the actual recorded audio from our actual device's storage. If you want a more detailed tutorial on how to create an audio player using Flutter, I already have a tutorial on that on my channel, so feel free to take a look at it. So let's copy the just audio package, come back and paste it under our dependency section as well, and then we can do command save. With this done, I can move to the next dependency, which is going to be path provider. And we're basically going to be using this to get the directory where we're going to be saving our actual recorded audio. So let's paste this in. And then finally, we're also going to be using the path package, which is going to allow us to basically perform path manipulation, join paths, and other things like that, so that we can form a complete path to the actual file within our device's file system. So now with all of the dependencies implemented, the next thing that we're going to be doing is actually configuring our application so that it works as intended on our deployment target. For this tutorial, I'm going to be focusing on Android and iOS, so I'm only going to be showing the setup for that. But I'll leave links to all of the resources that I mentioned within this video down in the description below, so you can feel free to take a look at them if you are confused at any point, and there's going to be a link to the source code down as well. So let's come back to our record package, and this is the only setup that we have to do. What you can do is come down to where you see the actual setup permissions and other heading, and here you can see all of the different things that you have to do. So for Android, we have to do three things. The first thing that we have to do is that we need to copy these use permission clauses. Then we have to come back to our actual Android folder, app, source, main, Android manifest.xml, and after the manifest tag, but before the application tag, basically paste these in and then make sure that you indent them properly. And that's pretty much all we had to do. With this done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is basically exiting out of this file and then making sure that I've set the minimum SDK version to 21. So to do that, what you can do is again come to Android app, and then from here you can come to build.gradle. You can scroll down to where it says minimum SDK under default config, and then make sure that this is 21 or higher. And that's pretty much all of the stuff that you need to know in order to set up the recorder application to work properly on Android. For iOS, the only thing we have to do is copy this permission clause for microphone usage description, because we are going to be using the device's microphone. Coming back to iOS, then from here we're going to come to runner info.plist, and here within the actual dictionary key we're going to be placing in these key string pair like so, and that's pretty much all we have to do. So now our application is going to work as intended on Android and iOS. All of the other packages don't require any configuration. If you want to take a look at other platforms that you're deploying to and what their setup requirements are, you can come here and take a look at them. And if there are no setup requirements listed, that means there is nothing that you have to do. It should automatically work on that platform. So with this done, let's actually give a test run to our application and see if it works as intended. Just as a quick side note, I've created a stateful widget called homepage that is empty, and its build function for now just returns a placeholder, which I'll replace with a scaffold. And besides that, there's nothing else. And in my main.dart file, I've set the material apps home property to homepage. So let's give our application a test run, and I'll resume the video once the actual application is running on the simulator. Welcome back, everybody. So as you can see, the application is now running on the simulator, so we can move forwards with the next step in this tutorial. The next thing that we're going to be focusing on is basically implementing the functionality so that we can record the audio, and then once we have the audio recorded, then we'll take a look at how we can play it. So to record the audio, the first thing that we have to do is that we need to create an actual instance of an audio recorder. So for that, what I'll do is that I'll come to my home_page.dart file, and then I'm going to come to the homepage state class. And here I'm going to be creating a property, which is going to be final audio recorder. This class is going to come from the recorder package. I'm going to call this audio recorder, and I'm going to set this equal to a new instance of audio recorder. Once our audio recorder has been created, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my scaffold, and on the scaffold, I'm going to set the floating action button property to a call to a function, which is going to be called recording button. Then within this class, I'm going to create a function which is going to be responsible for rendering this actual recording button. It's going to be called underscore recording button. It's not going to take in any parameters. And then it's basically going to return a floating action button like so. And that's pretty much all we have to do. For the onPressed callback function, let's set that to be an empty function for now. And with that, then the next thing that we can do is actually set the icon. So the icon is going to be the following. I'll do child is icon widget, and here we're going to do icons.mic. And that's all we had to do. So with this done, we can see this mic that we can click on this button, but nothing's happening for now. So let's address that. The next thing that I'm going to be doing is actually creating a variable that will allow me to basically keep track of whether we're using the recording right now and we're recording or not. So to do that, I'll do the following. I'll create another property on my home page state, and this is going to be Boolean. It's going to be called is recording, and by default, it's going to be false. Then what I'll do is that I'll come back to my floating action button, and I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say that the actual icon for this button is going to depend on the is recording Boolean value. So if we are recording, then the icon is going to be icons.stop. Otherwise, it's going to be icons.mic. And now we can move on to the next part. So the next part is what happens when we click on the actual button. Well, the first thing that I need to do is basically make sure that I'm not recording, because if I am recording, then I need to stop the recording. So for that, I can do if is recording, then we do something. Otherwise, we will do something else. So if we are recording, then what do we do? Well, then we have to save the actual recording file. And if we are not recording currently, then we have to start our recording. So let's take a look at starting the recording first. So to start the recording, it's going to be as follows. Firstly, we need to ensure that we have permissions to access the device's mic. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear anything. So I'll do if await recorder, audio recorder, dot, and then we have the has permission function, and this function will automatically take care of making sure that if we don't have permission, then asking the user to provide us with the permission. And if the user provides us with the permission, then we'll come within the if block and then do whatever next thing we have to do. So the next thing that I'm going to be doing is basically calling set state, and within set state, I'm going to say that I'm going to set is recording to true. And now the next thing that I'm going to be doing after this is firstly getting the path to where I'm going to be saving my audio file. So let's firstly get the directory within which I'll save my audio file. So to do that, I will do final, and this is going to be a variable of type directory. This class comes from .io. I'm going to call it app documents dir, so app documents directory, and this will come from the function get, and it's going to be called application documents directory, and this actual function will come from our path provider package. Once we have the actual app document directory, then I need to create the complete path to where I want to save my audio file. For that, I will say that I'll create a variable final string. This is going to be called the file path. And then I'm going to set this equal to the following, and I will use the path package for this. So to use the path package, what I will do is that I will come to the very top and I'll import the package. So to import it, I will do import package path as P, and then I will do command save, and then I will come down. And here I'm going to do the following, which is the file path is going to be equal to the p.join function. And the join function is going to allow me to join the app documents directory with the actual name for what our file name is going to be. So in this case, I want the file name to be the following, which is recording.wav. So you can name the file whatever you like, and that's pretty much all we had to do. So now that this is done, what I am now going to be doing is making sure that I do app document.path here. And now that I have access to the file path, I can actually start recording. So to start the recording, it's very simple. All we have to do is await, and then you can do audio recorder dot, and then you're going to call the start function. And then to the start function, you have to pass two things. The first is going to be the actual recording config, and the recording config is basically a config object that you can define different parameters in that are going to affect how your audio is recording. This includes the number of channels, the bit rates, the audio encoder, codec, and other things like that. So if you have a need to change these things, you can do that here. We're not going to be changing anything. And then once that is done, I'm going to set the path, and then the path is going to be the file path like so. And that's pretty much all we had to do. So with this done, that's pretty much all we had to do for the recording side of things. So let's do this. Let's restart our application and let's see if the recording actually works. So if I click on this button, you can see that the actual permission opens up. And if I say while using the app, now you can see that the recording has started and we are seeing the actual stop button. But now if I click on the stop button, nothing's happening. And the reason for that is because we're not handling what is the logic for if we are recording, then what do we do if the button gets clicked. So let's do that now. So if we are recording, this basically means that now we need to stop the recording and save it. So how are we going to be doing that? Well, for that, what you can do is basically do await and then here do audio recorder dot stop. And that's pretty much all you have to do, and it'll stop the recording and then it'll return to you the actual path to the file where it has saved that recording. So what I'll do is that I'll create a variable string optional. I'll say that this is going to be called file path. And then I'm going to set that equal to the audio recorder dot stop. And then after this, I'm going to do the following, which is if the file path is not null, so this basically means that the recording was successfully recorded, then I'm going to call set state, and I'm going to set is recording to false now because we're not recording anymore. And the next thing that I'm going to be doing is creating another variable on the home page state class that will keep a track of this file path. So let's come to the top, let's create a variable here, and this variable is going to be string optional called recording path. Then once this is done, I will come back and I will say that within the set state, after we've set is recording to false, I am going to do the next thing, which is to actually set the actual recording path to the file path like so. And that's pretty much all we had to do. And once this is done, the last thing that I'm going to be doing is coming to the else clause. And here, once we start the recording, then what I'd like to do is set the file path to null, because we started the actual recording. So for now, the file path is null, and this actually needs to be recording path. So with this done, our actual logic for recording the audio as well as stopping the audio is now complete. So we can restart our application and give this a test run. So if I click on the actual mic, it starts recording our audio. If the audio recording doesn't work for you, you can click on these three buttons, come to the settings for your Android simulator, make sure you come to microphone and make sure that you enable all three of these options. And then that is going to ensure that if there are any issues, that they are resolved. And now the actual Android emulator is using your host system's mic input. For iOS, you don't need to do this. So I'm going to now click stop, and the audio has been recorded successfully, as you can see. So now what we have to do is basically create a very minimalistic button within the middle of our scaffold, which is going to allow us to click on the button and play our audio. So let's do that. So to do that, I will do the following, and that is to come to my build function. And here I'm going to say that I'm going to set the actual body property to a call to a function, which I'm going to say is going to be called build UI, like so. Once I have this function call defined, I'm going to say the next thing is going to be that this function is going to return a widget. It's going to be called build UI. It's not going to take any parameters. And then within this function, I will return a size box with this specific width. The child for this is going to be a column. The column is going to have a children's list. And then that's pretty much all we have to do. And now we can proceed to the next step. So for the next step, we basically need to determine what we're going to be showing within this column. If we have a file path or a recording path, we show a button to play that. And when we are playing the recording, then we basically show the button to stop playing the recording. So how can we do this? Well, to do this, it's going to be as follows. Within the column, I'm going to be using an if statement. And I'm going to say that this is going to be if recording path is not equals to null, then we're going to be showing a material button. And then for its onPressed callback function, we'll set that to be false like so. And then if the recording path is null, then we have to show something else. So I will do if the recording path is equals to null, then what we have to do is basically show a text widget that basically shows that, hey, no recording was found. So I will copy and paste that in here like so. And that's pretty much all we have to do. So with this done, let's come back to our column and set the main and cross-axis alignment. And with this done, let's restart our application. And hopefully we can see that it says no recording found. So now when I click on the button, this is me doing a test recording on the phone. I can stop it, you can see that the text has now disappeared and it's showing our material button. So for the material button to actually be seen, what I'm going to do is set the color property to the following: theme.offContext.colorScheme.primary. And then after that, I'm also going to do the thing of setting the child, and the child is going to be a text widget, and the text widget basically is going to display different text based upon whether we're playing the audio recording or not. So we can come to the top of our class, and here we can create another Boolean variable, which is going to be called isPlaying, and by default this is going to be false. Then I'll come back to my material button. On the text, I'm going to say that if we are playing the audio recording, then we are going to say the following text, which is that we can stop playing the recording, like so. Otherwise, we are going to say start playing recording, like so. And there we go. So now it's showing me start playing recording because by default it's false for isPlaying. Now that this is done, I'm also going to set the style property on the actual text object so that the color for the text is white. And now we can actually see the button. So when we click on the button, nothing happens. And the reason for that is because the onPressed button callback is not doing anything for now. So let's come within this and define the logic for playing our audio recording. So I'm going to mark this function as async. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. And then after that, I'm going to do the following, which is to create our player and then access our player. So to create the player, I'm going to be doing the following. I'll come to the top of my class, and here I'm going to create another variable. It's going to be final. It's going to be called audio player. So this class is going to come from just audio. I'm going to say that this is going to be called audio player, and then I'm going to set this equal to a new instance of audio player. Once we have access to our audio player, within this function, I can do if our audio player is playing, then we have to stop the actual playback. If it's not playing, then we do something else. So if the audio player is playing, we call this block, else we do something else. So let's take a look at what do we do if the audio is already playing. Well, if the audio is playing, I'm going to do audio player.stop so that we stop playing the recording. And then after that, I'm going to do set state is playing is equals to false. And that's pretty much all we had to do. And if we are not playing currently, then we have to play the recording. So for that, it's as follows. We're going to first tell the audio player what resource it has to play. So for that, I can do audio player.set. And depending upon the resource, it's going to be a different method. In this case, we're going to be using a file path. So let's do set file path. And then here, we're going to give it the recording path like so. And that's what we had to do. Once this is done, then I'm going to do audio player.play. This is going to start the playback. And then finally, I will call set state. And within this, I'm going to do isPlaying is equals to true. And that's pretty much all we had to do. So with this done, I'll recommend that you give a complete restart to your application. It's showing me that no recording was found. And then what I'm going to be doing from here is making sure that I have the proper audio output selected on my system so that you guys can hear the audio recording. And if I click here, this is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if I can play it and hear it. This is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, yes, I can hear it properly. I can try to increase the volume so that you guys can hear it, but I can hear it properly. So that's pretty much it for today's tutorial. I hope that you learned a thing or two about how to record audio within your Flutter application and then play that back to the user. As always, if you enjoyed the video, then please don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel so that you get notified every time I release a new video. And with that, stay happy, stay healthy, keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.